Let's go.
Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back this time with Dan, aka at the Villa home, to reflect on Leeds United 1, Aston Villa 2 in the Premier League. And yes, another hard-fought victory, taking Villa up into the Champions League spots for now, at least. Dan, we saw each other at the game. We've had a little chat backstage. Just in general, how are you doing, first of all? And then another big win and a hard-working one for Aston Villa at that.
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Yeah, it was good to see you. To be fair, before I did see you, I saw the it was sort of reminiscing of you away at Arsenal. I saw your hands and I was like, that's where he is. I've seen him and I've clocked him. So but yeah, no, it was good. Other than the fact my feet were absolutely frozen yesterday. It was just nothing against people that live in Yorkshire, but it was just typical Yorkshire winter, wet, cold, and thankfully the 47 minutes of football in the second half made up for it. But yeah, all good.
Yeah, mate, it was I think it was all weathers, all seasons in one afternoon of football, wasn't it? We had a bit of sun, we had a rainbow at one point, we had torrential rain, we had sleet, everything they expect from good old Yorkshire weather. But Aston Villa weathered that storm and got the victory. And to be fair though, mate, I mean, we'll get into the first half in a second, but starting lineup came out. No Amadou Onana. I think he probably just didn't quite pass the sort of fitness test in that training session before they travelled. But, I mean, any surprises for you in terms of that starting lineup? Tielemans coming in for Onana and, in general, sort of pretty much the same team that played against Bournemouth?
Yeah, not really. I think Mark did his usual lineup, and when he put it up, I expected it to be that, and I think the only change was Onana. So, and I think we could go on about it every time. We've got a squad now where there is no sort of weakness if someone does get injured, and I think with what's to come in December, I think it's, if players aren't quite right, then yeah, it's absolutely the right thing to do to not risk them, especially when someone like Onana has got legs made of like breadsticks that if he gets an injury, he might be out for 4 months. So yeah, that wasn't really a surprise, but yeah, I know we'll get into it, but yeah, I think it was as strong as we could have gone, really.
Yeah, definitely. But to be honest, as that first half went on, it was, to me anyway, the frustration was so evident because it kind of just seemed like it was a rinse and repeat of previous away performance against, with all due respect, teams that we should be beating. And it became increasingly evident that Amadou Onana was the player that, certainly in recent weeks, that we certainly missed, because I don't know why this is a surprise to Aston Villa players, or seemed to be, but Leeds came with a battle plan and a fight to make the game a battle for second balls. No, not really high on quality, just real intensity, real pressing. And Villa tried to kind of just act in sort of that controlled possession way, think that they could just play the game as they would normally do. And Leeds were having none of it. And it just didn't seem to me that Villa were responding in the way that they should have done. And it was like, again, evident of the Everton performance at times, the Sunderland performance, and the Brentford performance, where we're trying to control the game and the other team is just having absolutely none of it. And Leeds, to their credit, were up for the battle.
Yeah, I think we obviously had a chat, me and Mar and Jer from the Leeds View on I think it was Saturday, just to do a bit of the preview. And it's strangely, the first half played out exactly as Jer had said. He said, if we can get an early goal, we'll be guns to the metal. We'll fly at you for the first half, all action. And obviously they got the early goal, and it's just as you say, that sort of control though wasn't there because we were giving the ball away. Then it was back, and then we'd get the ball, then we'd go forward, then they'd come back at us, and it was just sort of, as you say, there's been quite a bit of talk about the length of the grass. I mean, I didn't have my measuring
I don't know about that. Yeah.
ruler out, but it was the same for both teams. But yeah, they were. But they were up for it, and they were flying into challenges. There was one. It was right in front of us where Sean Longstaff absolutely clattered Luca Dean, and you could hear the crack from the away fans. And we may go on to it, but the referee just was like, "Yeah, don't do that again." And you just think, and you just think, and I said to the guy next to me, I said, the ref lost control of that in the first 10, 15, because there were challenges flying in left, right, and centre, and it was wet, it was slippery, and I thought this is destined for someone, probably a Villa player, to fly into someone. Then there'll be a brawl. Then someone will get sent off. But thankfully, that didn't happen. But yeah, you just say they got the early goal, and then they wanted to battle to keep on to that lead, and we didn't have the quality that we had shown before the international break to find those pockets and get behind them.
Yeah, it was becoming increasingly frustrating. I think the one sort of consolation, which we will come on to in a second, was the intensity that Leeds put into that first half. It was almost inevitable that they weren't going to be able to continue with that intensity further on into the game, and eventually that's what transpired. But you mentioned the early goal that Leeds got, and the way it was scored was kind of again indicative of Villa trying to show themselves as the superior, in quotes, team, that they can, they can manipulate the ref. They're the sort of ones who'll get the fouls here and there, and if they'll be the clever and smart ones. And Emi Martinez just got totally done. Like, it was no way it might have been a debatable whether it was offside and all that, and the drawing the lines and how they were drawn, which is a bit of a farce. But the actual foul on the goalkeeper, I mean, he was trying to kid the ref, and the ref's like, I'm not falling. If I've let these tackles go, there's absolutely no way I'm going to let that go. So he got absolutely pie in his face, really, didn't he?
Yeah, and again, this isn't a Martinez bashing, because he made some superb saves.
Yeah, absolutely.
He made a great save from, I think it might have been Tanaka or Stack or someone where just fired through a load of bodies in the first half.
And he just held it.
He made some good saves in the second half. But there's things like that when, okay, he maybe didn't have from a standing start, but you've got to be stronger in those in those areas. And as a goalkeeper, you probably do get a bit more protection, but also when you jump for the ball, you are allowed to use your knees and what have you. So actually, okay, you don't want to be giving away a penalty, but you've got to be stronger there. And actually, if you inadvertently end up using your knee or off a Leeds player to get more height, to punch the ball or whatever, that's what you got to do. It was another classic one where we didn't give away a huge amount of chances in like clear cut chances in the game. But again, we give away a goal, and it's a really sloppy goal to give away. And you know that Unai would have been on the with McPhee or whomever to say, we actually defended quite well, but again, we've conceded another sloppy goal. But yeah, I mean, other than that, he did make some great saves from other chances that Leeds have. But yeah, it's
just Martinez, isn't it? It's just typical Emi Martinez, not maybe 9 times out of 10 he maybe kids the ref and gets a free kick, but on this occasion he wasn't. Rob Jones is not a referee that's going to give any fouls really for anything like that. So, but yeah, we'll come on to the ref in a little bit just to round off. But I think where I mentioned about the pace that Leeds had put into it and the intensity that Leeds had put into it, you could kind of feel it slightly changing towards the back end of that first half. Like John McGinn was starting to sort of have a bit more of an influence, starting to put himself about and kind of show that example of like, look, we're not going to be ones to be shrinking into this game. But then we started to pick up spaces, and Watkins had a chance from outside the box, just curl wide, and we had a couple of other crosses that flashed across the box. But I think the key thing is to go in at halftime, only 1-0 down, and the tweaks that Unai Emery made. And this is what makes him an elite manager, really, is there's so many managers that wouldn't make the changes at halftime. But he made those changes at halftime. He identified the areas that maybe Leeds weren't expecting us to change, but also the pace that was needed out on that left-hand side in particular. Brought Matson on for Luca Dean, brought Malen on for Emi Buendia, who, to give him his dues, just couldn't get in the game, couldn't get the ball. But those are the key changes. That's what makes him such a good manager.
Yeah, and I think again, Jer mentioned it on the guy from the Leeds View on the Saturday. He said that Farke tends to have this tendency to wait until the 70th minute to make a sub, which is why I think there was those sarcastic cheers yesterday when I can't remember, he brought on like Calvert-Lewin,
Dan James and Calvert-Lewin, didn't
he? But even from when Emery first came to Villa, he wasn't afraid to haul players off after 30 minutes, 40 minutes. And that obviously infamous thing where he brought Bailey on and then sub Bailey off. And I think he did it this season with
Sancho.
It might have been Sancho. And actually, if things aren't working, he's not afraid to make those changes. The one that was a slight surprise, but he played well when he came on, was Matson to come on. There's a few comments I heard at half time being surely Marlen's going to come on at some point. But yeah, I think they needed that injection from somewhere, and obviously, I think when you look at those two substitutions, that's sort of a sign of real attacking intent, because you know that Matson's going to want to fly forward, and you know that Malen isn't going to be sort of one that sits in the pocket. He's going to run the channels. So it was a sign of the intent. I didn't expect it to be about 68 seconds into the second half worth of intent, but it was. I think that was the start that we needed to just completely kill any sort of atmosphere that had built in the first half.
100%, mate. And look, what an impact. And you mentioned Matson, but Donyell Malen, I mean, to come on and have that instant impact, it was just incredible, really. You know, it's where you dream of as a manager. But receives the ball down that right-hand side from Cash, and then just takes one touch, looks up, sees Morgan Rogers make the run across the defender, and then puts the ball in the net, puts the ball into the box. Rogers, lovely, checks his stride, and then just flicks it with the outside of his foot into that far corner. Beautiful finish. And, you know, wild scenes in the away end. Me and Aidan were just literally walking down the steps back to go to our seats. Then we scored, and we were like, all right, sod this. We're just going to run down the steps to the front. And he gets elbowed in the head by someone, and then we're just going mad.
I think I said to a couple of, because in my row there were quite a few people that weren't there, probably because they were finishing a pint or whatever. But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me the number of people that missed that first goal anyway. But yeah, it was the start that was needed, and not only was it a great sort of cutback from Cash and then the cross from Malen, but you actually look at the finish. From Rogers, he made it look easy, but it was a deft touch, and certainly the injection in the second half that we needed.
Absolutely. And then other substitutions are made later on in the game. Ross Barkley comes on, wins the free kick. You know, he's in that more advanced position as well. Again, a bit of a mixed, I think, performance from Ross Barkley coming on at that time, but you know, whatever. But wins us the free kick, and it's now nicknamed the Emi Buendia free kick. But Morgan Rogers, again, that kind of knuckleball free kick. I'm not sure what the goalkeeper was doing. My lad managed to get the video. I said, like, have a look and get this on, see what happens. And then I said on the video, I can see he's leaving a gap here. I didn't mean a gap in the wall. I meant the goalkeeper's leaving a huge gap in the goal. And yeah, Rodgers just if you connect with, you've got to connect with it, haven't you? But once you've connected with it, I mean, the goalkeeper just, I don't know what he was thinking. Was he thinking he was going to go the other side? But he just looked at it going into the net, and absolutely, we're not going to moan about it. But it just seems strange. Like it just seemed to go in slow motion almost.
I know we're not going to moan about it, but Christ, the Leeds fans, quite rightly, having seen the videos, they have. I won't repeat what some of them have said on some of the videos, but there's a great video. I think it's from maybe one of the hospitality boxes in that. Is it the Cop? I can't remember if it's the Cop that, and it's right behind the goal, and you don't really. I mean, I said that he should have done better. I'm not a goalkeeper. I'm not a Premier League player, so who am I to say?
Never.
But it's just like I don't know what. I took a picture and I should have sent it to you. And I didn't take a picture on my camera of Rodgers hitting it, but I took a picture of the goal of literally the goal, and just managed to get the point where the ball has gone past the keeper, and you can just see the keeper, and he is so flat-footed. It's not surprising he doesn't move because he is so flat-footed. But yeah, people at the time thought it went top bins, and you like, obviously where we were sort of a little bit further along, and even then it was a great free kick. But yeah, as a keeper, and as a Leeds fan, you've got to be saying what the keeper's not even tried to even make an attempt at saving it. It's sort of gone down the middle of the goal. But yeah, who are we to complain? What a goal. What a turnaround.
Exactly.
Scenes in the away end.
Exactly. Absolutely, mate. Absolutely brilliant. And look, I think we saw the game out pretty well from there. You know, a couple of misplaced passes, a couple of big saves that you mentioned from Martinez, some really good defending from Konsa and Pau Torres in particular. And yeah, I think in terms of, I guess, big moments in the game, I think Villa deserved it. I think Leeds played their part in the game. They'll make it tough for any team at Elland Road. We know that. But I think for character and for resilience, particularly in that second half, because as I said, I was really frustrated with the performance in the first half, because I was thinking, like, what do you expect from Leeds United? You've already experienced this from Sunderland. You've already experienced this from Everton. Like, you go into these teams, this is what they're going to do. They're going to put it on you. But I was really impressed with Boubacar Kamara in particular in that second half. I thought he had a pretty poor first half, but once he realised he was in a battle, he really stood up to the test. And that's where these games are won and lost in midfield, and you've got to win the battle first before your qualities can come through.
Yeah, I said that on the Saturday when we spoke with Martin and Jer, that the game was going to be won in that midfield battle. And I said to the guy next to me, I said, I always use, if Tielemans or Kamara, I'm not saying they had a bad game, but the accuracy of Tielemans' passes in that first half wasn't where we know it can be. Some of his long balls were going straight to Rodon and Strike, and Kamara was misplacing passes. And I said to the guy next to me, I said, when they're not completely at it, that's usually how I use a barometer of how we're playing. They weren't well, I don't think anyone had a great first half, but those two who usually put in your 8.5, 9s out of 10s probably had maybe a 6.5, I don't know, 6, 7 out of 10 in the first half, and things weren't coming off. And I said, when they usually, and I'm not saying they dropped a clanger, but when they're not usually at their levels that we expect them to be,
they got hustled out of it.
Yeah,
rushed.
Villa don't perform when they're not. When certainly those two aren't at their best. But yeah, as you say, I don't think it may have been a conversation that Emery had at half time. Say, you realise you're in a battle here. You're not going to be given the time to pick your passes, because, as you say, Leeds were, as soon as anyone, the number of fouls that were in that first half from both teams, but it was because tackles were flying in, they were hurrying us, and it wasn't. We didn't really get that control until probably that Rodgers goal went in, and we could then really take the pace out of the game. But yeah, I think, as you say, beggars can't be choosers.
You've got to win
Onana's,
every way, Dan.
yeah,
You've got to win every way. And like I said, I think in terms of satisfaction for a victory, I think this will rank up there with the best in the dressing room because they will know what you're going to face when you go to Leeds in terms of the crowd, in terms of the intensity, in terms of the hostility. And if you can come out of that sort of lion's den with 3 points, that does wonders for a dressing room. Like, I've been in, albeit semi-professional dressing rooms, but when you get a proper away win at a tough place to go, there's nothing better for the dressing room than that, because that takes you a long way, because you know that not only can you come back from behind, but you can go into like a lion's den and get the result. You know that you're looking at the man next to you, he's going to go into war with you, he's going to go into battle with you, and that does a hell of a lot for the teams moving forward.
Yeah, I think you look at that Leeds, I think after us have got a horror run of games. I think they've got like City, Chelsea, Liverpool, maybe Arsenal. I can't remember. But going back to sort of our fixtures, it's no good winning your away at Tottenham, City, Bournemouth, who haven't been great away from home, but a great win at home to Bournemouth, and I can't remember who else is in that run. Was it Burnley? I can't remember.
Burnley, Fulham.
Fulham, that's it, Fulham. It's no good winning those and then putting in a poor performance and losing to a Leeds side that had lost 5 out of the last 6. As you say, those are the sorts of games where, as glamorous as the Tottenham away win and the 4-0 at home, actually it's the ones where you have to dig deep and you're not at your best. The weather's pretty poor, the grass is too long, but you score two goals, you come out the back of it, and it gives a sort of stepping stone even after that break to potentially go on and kick on into December, when every team's looking at all their games to say, right, well, if we can win 4 out of 6 or 3 out of 6. So yeah, it's one that I think they'll look back on and go, we dropped a below par performance for first half. We came out second half, completely flipped the table over and showed what we're about. So yeah, a great victory, and one that you just sort of, no matter how pretty or not it was, you just get over it, onto the next one. Wolves on so obviously Europa in the week, but Wolves at Villa Park next Sunday.
Exactly, mate. Couple of performances just to highlight. I think we've mentioned him briefly, but Donyell Malen came on, adds intensity, adds purpose. A real good game for him, that type of game to come on. And I think that switch, putting 2 up top for a little while with Ollie Watkins really sort of confused Leeds for a bit. But in terms of Donyell Malen, is it now the time to say, look, you deserve a shot now as being the main striker? He's having that impact. He's having those shots. He's looking hungry. He's looking dangerous. Is it time to say, look, we're gonna have to give you the shirt now?
Yeah, I think it's I don't know. It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because I know that Watkins had a well, I say great chance. It was a half chance, but if that goes in on the 43rd minute, you're like, well, where's that goal come from? He's got that confidence. I don't think it's necessarily helping Watkins's case that Malen is having such a big impact when he comes off the bench, because everyone's going, why can't Emery see that Marlen's the one to change the game? But I think he plays even from the, I think it was, I can't remember who did the podcast. It was a Dutch fan did a podcast and say that Malen plays really well as a 2 rather than so. And I think there's that sort of Rodgers, Watkins, and Malen as a front 3 work really well. But then you play those 3, then does Buendia drop out? So it's difficult because you go into the whole Watkins debate as it's World Cup year. If he wants to go, he needs to score. If he needs to score, he needs to play, but he's not got the confidence. So, yeah, I think it wouldn't surprise me on Thursday to see Malen start, but then also it wouldn't surprise me to see Watkins start, because Emery might think, well, he just needs a goal. Maybe Thursday he might get those chances. But yeah, it's the number of group chats, as I'm sure you are, Rich, you're in, and people are people are clambering for Malen, going, surely he has to start. Let's face it, it's a really nice and a strong position to be in, that we've got players that are competing now and are putting in performances, whether it's goals, assists, that we're not completely reliant on Ollie, because previous years he's had a great season, and you're sort of looking around the pitch going, well, if Ollie doesn't score, where are we going to get these goals from? But you look at elsewhere around the pitch now, we've got defenders popping up with goals, midfielders, attacking players scoring goals. So it's a nice position to be in. But I think, he's certainly putting his cards on the table to say, Unai, I can show you what I can do. So
yeah, absolutely. And the match winner, Morgan Rogers, didn't have the best of first halves. Had a nice little moment right at the start of the game. Beautiful technical ability, but again, just a player that we couldn't get the ball to. Similar to Emi Buendia, and I guess more tactically that Emi Buendia came off than say Rogers or McGinn. But certainly I'm glad that he didn't take Morgan Rogers off at half time. Not that he was going to do that, but the quality that he's got in terms of those finishes. I think that slight position change, as you mentioned, getting Malen into different spaces allowed Rogers to get into different spaces. The drop off slightly in Leeds' pressing and intensity allowed him then to have a bit more space to operate in. But just I guess those moments of quality that he can produce. And to have those match winners, sometimes it's been Buendia this season, other times it's been John McGinn this season. This time round, it was Morgan Rogers. To be able to call upon these players to win you the game, when you've got to dig in, when you've got to find someone to be that match winner, is just invaluable. And he's now stepping up to the plate. That's 3 goals now for the season, and just starting now to get really warmed up for this Christmas period where the games are going to come thick and fast.
Yeah, and I think going back to right at the start of the season when we had that indifferent start, what he showed yesterday is why Emery was probably resistant to take him off. When he will admit himself, and every Villa fan that watched those first few games, he wasn't anywhere near where he could be and has been for the Villa. And I think that's where the frustration, because Villa fans are going, why are you taking off Buendia, or why are you taking off Tielemans or what have you? Rogers is dropping a bit of a clanger, take him off. But he showed yesterday in those not just those 2 moments, but certainly the 2 goals, why Emery has got that much faith in him, because he can change a game himself. So he's certainly starting to get back into the groove of where he was probably about 12 months ago, because I know from sort of January this year up until probably maybe September, he hadn't been at the levels he has been. So it's certainly a good time to be coming into a run of form, as long as he can stay fit.
Exactly, mate. Exactly. Now, just to finish off the show, I will admit I was quite a few pints deep when I did my Rich Reacts match reaction show. I think I did all right actually with it, but I did moot the idea of. Now this is a complete Rich switch, because back a few months ago I was talking about relegation. So anyone who's followed me knows that I switched my mind by the minute, let alone by the week. But yeah, a few points deep. But I did moot the idea of, now we've gone into the Champions League spots. Now we're in that top 4. The run of form that we're on, the quality of the squad that we now have without the injuries. I know we've got a couple of players that are kind of, Onana should be fit soon. Tyrone Mings is on the treatment table, but generally the squad is looking really, really, really strong. With a couple of additions in January, could we be mooting the idea of a potential title challenge, Dan?
I thought that's where this was sort of going. I mean, look, I've seen it on various things on social media, but Arsenal have, quite rightly, because they're top of the league, have been the most consistent team in the league so far. but you look at the number of inconsistencies across the whole of the league in terms of like your Liverpool. Of course, they're up there. One win in the last 6 games or whatever was against us, but Man City haven't been at maybe the levels they. And again, it's always dangerous to say that because you say that and they then go
Well,
on
they
and
can go on a 10 or 12 game winning run,
yeah,
can't they?
where the number of times where they've gone and won 17 out of 18 games,
yeah.
and so no one's really setting the league on fire. And I think you've just got to, when you're in a good moment of form, you've just got to keep plugging away, and the good old cliche, take one game at a time. But there's no point in looking at December going, right, let's try and win this game, that game, this game, because who's obviously Arsenal came back from the international break and Gabriel's out for, I think it was a number of weeks. It could all change, and by the time we play them in a couple of weeks, they could have a couple of injuries, we could have a couple of injuries. So it's one game at a time. But I don't think I certainly by the middle of December, certainly at least January, if we're still in that mix, I can't see why we shouldn't be looking at trying to maintain that and increase or bolster the squad to be able to maintain that. Because, as I say, it's by the end of December, we'll have played every team, at least, certainly in ours, because we play them twice in December. We'll have played everyone once. We'll have played some of the big teams away from home. And yeah, who's to say we can't go on a title charge? But because we're not one of the fashionable names to be part of that conversation. It's the Sky Sports top 3 or big 3. I think they're quoting now, and you're like,
if we get into third, it'll be the top 2 or something. But it is funny. But yeah, I think I can't disagree with anything that you've said there. You know, there's a hell of a long way to go, but it's just interesting to see that the emotional kind of toll that being back in the Champions League took out on the players last season, the kind of magnitude of those games and the results that we got from those games, and then kind of the high that gave you to then go into the Premier League the next week. You know, Villa struggled with that, and Newcastle struggled with that a little bit this season as well. But you know, I guess the slightly less intensity of the Europa League, also the experience that Villa have had by the previous 2 seasons being in Europe, has kind of almost allowed them to sort of take that in their stride almost. And I get it was a poor start to the season, and I get there's probably going to be a couple of other little sticky patches as the season goes on. But ultimately, you know, we're going to have runs of great results. So why can't we aim for something? And as you say, being in and around the mix in sort of that December, January time, if Chelsea are looking to do that with their slight inconsistencies, if Man City are looking to do that with their inconsistencies, why can't we do it if potentially we can add to the squad in that January window?
Yeah, and I think the Champions League obviously was great and took a lot out of fans, let alone the players. But there was a lot of emotion in some of those games, and they weren't just sort of a Champions League night at home. We played the likes of Bayern Munich, and obviously all the history of facing Bayern Munich and Juventus and
Celtic, Battle of Britain.
There was some. And again, no discredit to the teams in the Europa League, but we were playing some massive games at home, which certainly we obviously grew into the competition. But to start with, it was a bit of men against boys, certainly against Bayern Munich, because we barely touched the ball for however long. But actually, and they always say, when you've got the ball, you're conserving energy. We were just chasing shadows. So I think, certainly some of the fixtures took it out of the players, and I know there's the argument, well, they're professional players. If they want to play at Champions League level, they need to be able to cope with it. But yeah, I think there's that experience in the squad of playing midweek, playing at the weekend, and we found that out a bit when we were in the Conference League. We weren't great after European trips or European games. A little bit better at times last season, but they seem to have got. I think this is probably. I've said it before. We're probably at a stage now where the squad is at the optimum level in terms of we're. Yes, okay, it would have made sense to go Conference, Europa, Champions League, but I think we sort of had a good enough squad to compete in the Champions League to get to the quarterfinal. But now we're at a time where we've got the squad depth, we've got the players to be able to compete and make a number of changes still in Europe. To famous last words when Young Boys beat us 1-0 on Thursday. But we're at a stage where we can make 3, 4, 5, 6 changes and not completely sort of decimate the squad or the quality. And it's the likes of the teams that have always been in Europe the last 10, 15 years are able to do that. You look at Chelsea last year in the Conference League; they basically played their B team for the group stages and didn't really and were able to pretty much win the league phase or group phase, got to the knockouts, and then brought all the big guns in. So these teams are, when they're maybe playing in a competition, not lesser than they should, because again it comes across that you're expecting that you should win. It's a foregone conclusion. But I think if we're in the Champions League, we might not see as many changes, and you'd have those Tielemans playing 45 games a season and what have you. But yeah, I think we're at a level now where we can make the changes, we can still compete, and also compete and continue momentum in the Premier League.
Absolutely. Well, look, mate, it's going to be a fun ride, whatever, and I think we're buzzing after that victory. And like you said, go into the Young Boys game on Thursday with confidence, make 1 or 2 changes, but also keep a strong side out. We know that we've got the squad to do that, and then take it to Wolves on Sunday and get that result and really start to show what we're made of. We will obviously be covering all that on the channel, and we've got Fans Forum to come with a bit of a Young Boys Europa League preview. Obviously, we'll be doing a watch along for the Young Boys game. We'll be doing instant reaction, preview for Wolves, you name it. We've got it on the channel. So it's coming at you thick and fast after this international break. I'm telling you that.
It's a full-time job.
We're going to be busy, Dan. We're going to be busy. But yeah, thanks for jumping on tonight. Make sure you get your comments in as well. Your thoughts on the performances, Morgan Rogers, Donyell Malen. Is it time to start him up front? Some of the defending as well. I thought Cash was excellent again. Konsa showed his leadership skills and just that battle in midfield. That once we actually got our heads down and got into the battle, I thought we won the fight and obviously got the quality to get the results. So get your comments in, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, help us on the road to 10,000 subscribers. We'll be back, like I say, Tuesday night, Fans Forum night. So get your questions, get your comments in, and look out for all the shows coming out for the rest of the week. Thank you all for watching. And as always, remember, we'll follow the Villa.